Toons of the Tooniverse. Thank you for tuning in to our first episode of Who Is. My name is Toonsy, Daffy, or Daffodil Bud, anything works, and I am a game design lead assistant alongside a semi-lore lead with, obviously, lovely Cheesefish, or Tubby. And joining me today in this episode is Turkeybone. Take it away, Turkey.
Hello, my name's Turkey. Some people in the community call me Alex. Either or is fine with me. I'm the lead of the game design department on the Clash crew, and I am excited to be here.
Thanks for joining us, Turkey. Why don't you tell the listeners about what the series is all about?
Who is a podcast series that dives into the lore of all your favorite characters from Toontown Corporate Clash. Here we will discuss the backstory, other lore elements, some development backgrounds, and some other fun facts you may have not have known before. Furthermore, in the end, we will answer some questions that you may have about who we're discussing today.
You good there? We all have had that kind of stuff, man. Don't worry. It's always the first episode jitters. But,
Always.
Of course, what no better way to start the series than the most talked about character, Atticus. I know you and me, Atticus goes way back when I first joined the team. Yeah. I mean, I know Break the Law was one of my biggest things alongside you. I wasn't here before the prep of Break the Law, but I know I was kind of more of a major part of Break the Law alongside you with kind of the ARG stuff and just amongst many things. And I know you and I mainly wrote Atticus itself.
Yes.
Yes. I mean, I gotta say, that's probably one of the biggest moments and probably we've had since knowing each other for who knows how long.
6, almost 7 years at this point?
No, it's gotta be 9 to 10.
No, it's not been that long. But
Are you sure?
it's been close.
Alright, fair enough. So, where do I begin with Atticus? I mean, I know his lore pretty darn well. Let's see.
A good place to start might be about that Twitter post that we made a few days ago. Not the Q&A post, the one prior. A lot of people have had questions about why was he not a Skelecog and that.
Yeah. That's a good point. I guess we could start during his kind of college years and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, kind of before Atticus was the Atticus y'all know today, he actually went by Atticus Wigwort. Surprise, surprise. And we'll explain why if he went from Wigwort to Wing. Must be obvious, but we'll get there when we get there. But yeah, he kind of had the college life here in Wisconsin. What the Atticus was previously is not what you expected. He was more kind of entitled, I would say. Kind of more of like, he thought he was like the top dog in his college life. He always got kind of like best grades and all that kind of stuff. He was, what do they call it, college, like valedictorians or something? I know it's like,
top of the class.
Yeah, he was top of class and all that kind of stuff.
Like salutatorian.
Yeah. He was the biggest guy ever. Like, he never really kind of went to anyone for help. He didn't really offer help until kind of one day, he was assigned kind of a cog to tutor. And this kind of started changing him of how he felt towards kind of just other cogs and just general, I should say. Just kind of that slowly kind of bonding with this certain suit, just really got him to that edge of what he knows now. He's still not there yet. He's still not empathetic of what he was today. He's still just getting there. It was kind of during that time where he saved kind of like a legal eagle from falling debris in a wreckage in Wisconsin. Did he kind of have that change of heart? I think it was like, I kind of see this as like, what he is now as a Skelecog is kind of just like what he prefers to be. Someone kind rather than someone, I don't know, like what he was previously.
Yes.
When it comes to Red though, Red is an interesting and fun story, actually. I know everyone wants to know that, like, ooh, how did Red and Atticus come to be? Ooh, it's a whole story. Essentially, what happened with Atticus, I'd say before we get to Red, is Atticus did eventually get married, and he changed his last name to Wing. And during kind of, like, this, after marrying and all that kind of stuff, a cog at this time was kind of, like, introduced, and this was Red Hairwing. At the time, he was not what, like, he is now. He was originally a Skelecog, kind of working in kind of that same element of corporate law, and he was kind of young at the time, and Atticus kind of had this very fatherly instinct to take him in and tutor him like he did for another Sue. And that was when kind of Red was like a bit he didn't really like Atticus. He kind of liked someone else at this point, but he didn't like Atticus kind of like as a father figure. He kind of saw him more as just of like some cog, I should say. It's when like Atticus started to care for Red, because Red never had this kind of caring element, and that's a whole different story we'll get into perhaps in the future. But it was when Red saw how much Atticus cared for him that he started to kind of lighten up and actually really just warmed up to Atticus overall. And it was like it was a moment when at first kind of like what should I say? It was when like Red gave Atticus the #1 dad mug that really solidified like, okay, alright, I'll probably like accept this all father thing. And adoption papers went through, and boom, Red Hairwing, as you all know today.
Yes.
I'd say as a little fun fact of the hair part, Atticus did spoil Red without a doubt, so there's a little fun fact for you all out there. So, after the whole kind of raising Red to be this smart kind of boy that he is, Atticus graduated from Wisconsin University. And as all college students are, when they first graduate, they're in debt. And Atticus had a family to raise, obviously, and a family to kind of just offer money to, a house, home, and everything. So it was around that point that Cogs Incorporated kind of reached out, because this was during the time where CJ left, and they needed a kind of quote-unquote replacement, or just a substitute for the time being before they found a replacement. And this is when Atticus stepped in to take the job, as what mostly now people known as the witness stand-in. Yeah. BTL. Woo! BTL is probably one of the most biggest moments of Atticus history ever within his life. BTL was a spiral. It was a snowball for him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This can be shown through like the duration of Break the Law, where we had several comics kind of displaying his like reaction to Toons attacking Lava HQ during the duration of Break the Law, as well as like throughout patches and updates during Break the Law, we would tweak his dialogue to kind of represent that spiral into like mental sadness or whatever.
Yeah.
Depression and all that.
I mean, some events kind of led to that, where it was just like, I mean, obviously the Resistance Rangers were starting to get the upper hand, and Atticus having kind of just this strong loyalty of his position, he did not want that to happen. And it was actually Red who kind of stepped in, trying to help his father, because Red hated seeing his father in this devastated state. He wanted to do something to make up to his father, and like just almost like defend him in a way, or just help him. But that kind of ended up going against him, and Red kind of got badly damaged in the process, which just ended up causing Atticus to go even more deeper and deeper into just this spiral, until he kind of finally snapped in Phase 3, in which you all known as kind of the witness stand-in fight.
Yeah.
Speaking of the witness stand-in fight, I know that you, amongst others, were kind of part of that battle. What was the thought process behind that?
Okay, so initially it was we were developing this mini boss fight for the witness stand-in as kind of just like another fun thing to do in Phase 3, because as many players know, as the one thing about BTL is it didn't have a whole lot of new gameplay with it. So it was initially designed as just like this fun optional way to finish the CJ fight, or what would CJ fight at the time, but actually the witness stand-in. But it ended up developing into something, because we didn't get it in for the release of Phase 3, so we ended up developing it into what it was, which was the result of finishing the final ARG for Phase 3 of BTL, in which were like 4 tunes at the the cannon off fill the entire jury, he would snap,
Yeah.
and that results in the mini boss fight that everybody endured.
I don't know if this is just me, my standpoint. I know Red. I think it was Red that kind of had that first introduction to what you all know as like cheats. I know was like Atticus kind of that second introduction as well.
I would say so. I mean, if we really want to be honest, I mean, we would say like Sads would be the first cog that had quote unquote cheats. That's just because of his like damage over time and his first introduction back in 2019 of the Halloween. But then obviously for April Tunes of 2020, we introduced Red instead of bringing Counterclaim back. And yeah, and he had his own little set of cheats, which in hindsight are nearly as complex as the ones we come with now, and there's technical reasons for that. But yeah, he was the first. I would say he's the first fight with like genuine cheats that like changed how you might consider how to fight him.
Yeah, and I'd say it's just I think just the Wing family overall is kind of just that introduction of it, which I think is amazing and phenomenal. I think that BTL Phase 3 was kind of just that final introduction into what would be kind of like the standpoint for now on Corporate Clash, and it's just functionality and all that kind of stuff, which I think was really, really cool.
Yeah.
Let's see, what else can I talk about? I mean, I guess now, everyone knows how the Last Stand went off. Obviously, Resistant Rangers think they get the upper hand. Atticus ends up pushing him back because the final CLO has been finally been hired, assists Atticus in this kind of final showdown, but ends up kind of when he thought he was able to kind of fend off the Resistant Rangers, Elvis is the final one to kind of take the blow of what Atticus is and end up killing him, which does end up kind of just like causing a Red to be a trillionaire and end up going somewhere, which who knows where he might be right now.
Of course. With like the Last Stand, even like a lot of BTL stuff, one thing I definitely like recall and enjoy doing a lot was writing a lot of Atticus's dialogue for both the Last Stand and in game.
Oh yeah, that was a great tag team that we had there for a hot minute. Not gonna lie. All right.
A lot of cooperation in that regard.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I remember. I know we were just sitting in. And we're like, you know what? Let's just do this dialogue. I know you did a lot. You did majority of it, if anything. I know I just pitched ideas, and you're like, wait, what if? Which was pretty fun.
Yes, it was very enjoyable.
Yes.
Probably one of my favorite moments of working on Break the Law.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think just me working with kind of the Atticus art overall was, I think, one of my favorites as well.
I agree.
Yes.
All right.
So I guess then we'll go straight to our Q&A that we have put a tweet out for. Let's start with the first question from Duckington Finch. The question I'd like to answer is, who was the artist behind the image?
Well, okay, so the person who did the art behind our wonderful art here on the Twitter post is actually Mailman from the Corporate Clash Crew. He is one of our creative lead assistants.
Woo! Mailman! Shout out to Mailman! I think
he's a very cog individual.
Mailman is the best. We love you, Mailman. Please, if you ever see Mailman around, by the way, guys, give them some love. They're fantastic. Alright. Yeah. So, next question.
Next question from the Animal Tutor, or Fetch One. Are there any other cogs that are part of the Wing family outside of Atticus and Red?
Yes, actually, as obviously Atticus is married, so that would be his spouse.
Yeah. Then that's moving on to our next question from Chocolate Dial, or at Chocolate CPU. Why is Atticus, any cogs for that matter, a lawbot? Did they choose that branch, or was it chosen for them? Can they switch branches, or do they feel no desire to?
I guess I'll start answering this in just parts. Atticus is a lawbot because obviously he was built and constructed that way. He was assigned to that. It was kind of chosen for him, and he really did not want to switch because he kind of felt it was destined for him, and he just felt being in there, and it was right for him. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Alright. Let's go on to the next question by Junior the Epic, or Google Corn. How did he feel knowing that the department he tried to keep intact was falling apart?
Okay, so like as we described up above, earlier, he had a lot of mental down spirals during the duration of BTL, with with Red being bullied during April Tunes, along with like just the Lawbot department just falling apart, he just eventually had this mental down spiral, which led to the peak of both his mini boss fight and the Last Stand.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I mean, it's just that overall. It's just again just that spiral. It really had the most heaviest toll on him throughout his time working in Cogs Incorporated.
All right. Moving on. From Jackson or at Marine Tune, how did he feel losing his big wig shell?
I know obviously at first he kind of just felt weird because since he was a version 2.0, but after a while he kind of accepted it because kind of saw it as like something that it's his big wig shell. He kind of really liked his new self because this was himself now being kind of like empathetic. And his old, he wanted to kind of just push the old life behind and kind of accept this new version of him. So more kind of just in a, to sum it all up, accepting.
Yes. The next question from Lewis Reese or at dungeon_rated. What's his favorite memory of spending time with Red? Important question for my soul with a little heart emoji.
That's cute. Okay. Well, that's a really good question. Let me see my vault of memories here. I know I mentioned before that the receiving of the mug from Red is one part of it, but I'll give probably another thing is, I mean, usually their study times together, they usually bond over a lot, just kind of Atticus teaching corporate law to Red, and that's usually how they kind of bond the most. I would say anything regarding just teaching overall is kind of just their biggest moments together, because it was just that time where they both could just, like, be father and son.
I'll actually take this next question, if you want to go ahead and ask.
Yeah, sure. This one's by Miss Burkby, or sorry if I butcher this, Aurelia Hart. What's his importance for new players?
Alright, for in-game like playstyle, there is nothing like too direct in terms of needing to know who he is. But if you want to like really develop the lore, especially in the development of the Lawbot department, it's very important to know about Atticus because he played a pretty big role in terms of the transition between the CJ and the CLO being introduced in the game.
Mm-hmm.
So in hindsight, he's important if you want to know the story, and it's good to know it because it might come up again in the future.
Yes. I mean, I would certainly say for sure he's brought up a lot, especially with stenographer and case manager, since they too were kind of impacted by kind of just Atticus' death overall.
Yes.
All right. Next question, if you
Next
want.
question from Little Oldman, or at little_underscore Oldman.
Yo, Little Oldman?
What were the opinions of the other department bosses about who he was?
Okay, this is a fun one. So, alright, so here's a little lore for you guys. Usually when you're with your coworkers, or the bosses I should say, since you're all coworkers with one another, you usually are focused in your own department. So, they really did not care of what was happening with Atticus and all. I mean, they were kind of more worried about their own departments. I mean, obviously they were impacted by kind of like this dent in the Lawbot kind of just headquarters area overall. But I would just say overall that VP was worried within his own kind of his own headquarters. Same thing with the CFO. CJ was gone, out taking his vacation, and CEO, I guess there was just a little hint of worry, but it was not that bad. Again, they were all worried about their own departments rather than worried about Atticus.
Yeah, they were less worried about Atticus himself and more about the domino effect of the Lawbot department.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, if Atticus were to do something bad, I think he would get the finger pointed on him. So it's kind of that deal. If he didn't bring it up his weight, obviously the bosses were gonna probably
bosses were much more self-centered about the whole situation.
Mm-hmm, absolutely. All right, final question from Mildly Interesting Toontown Facts, or at Two Toe Facts. That's a funny name.
Great handle, by the way.
Yes, absolutely stunning handle. If Atticus was a 2.0 bigwig, how is Red Hairwing in any way related besides his last name?
So, at the end of the day, that is like the main way they are related, because as we discussed previously, Red was adopted by Atticus. So their relations do end past last name, but they still have this really strong father-son bond,
Mm-hmm.
or did have this really strong father-son bond.
I mean, And overall, it's just Atticus taking Red into the family, and Red adopting that last name because he feels like he belongs in the Wing family. He loves his father, all things considered, and Atticus loves his son in like the same way. It's just that idea of adoption and just wanting to be a part of this big, great family.
Yes.
Yes. Well, I think that's probably all of the questions that we have. Yes, there is. Well, Turkey, thank you so much for joining me talking about Atticus. I think this is the most funnest thing that I've ever done with you, man.
I don't know how to respond to that because we've had a lot of good times together. But yes, I had a great time today. I have been looking forward to doing this, so I was very glad to be here.
Yeah, of course, of course. So guys, let us know what character that should be talked about next here, and if the next What Is podcast, or Who Is, I should say. And thank you for tuning in. Hope you all have a great day.
All right, you guys have an awesome day.
Woohoo! See you in the Tooniverse.